internet, we are back, and I wish to welcome Kevin Johnson once again, 32 Battalion member. And we're carrying on with our morning show, our entrepreneurship. And let me tell you once again, and I don't want in the future to tell you I told you so, but this is important. You really need the business skills. You do not know what's going to happen in the future, but what we do know or suspect is that it might be bad. And if you know about somebody who needs these type of skills, please bring them here to the program. And I believe today, Kevin, we're carrying on, we're speaking about freedom through relationship. So if you can tell us about that, and welcome once again. Thank you for your time, your efforts. We really appreciate you.
Good. Well, this is the 7th of the 8 mindsets, freedom through relationship. And I want to go back many, many decades ago. And to be honest with you, when I started to use these questions in a different format, because it's actually questions that get put to whoever you're wanting to have a relationship with, whether it's business partners, whether it's the staff, whether it's the prospects, it's all about asking the right questions. So before we actually get onto the questions, I just want to say to you that there's 2 parts to it. Okay, there's an emotional part and an intellectual part. And we as humans, we actually are emotional first, and then we use reason to make sense of our emotions. And so therefore, in these questions we're going to go through today, and you're going to do the exercise quiz, you will see that it's both emotional and, intellectual. So the first part was some decades ago. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with SWOT analysis, SWOT. Now, I don't know whether I was exposed to that in the back of the police station where I was based. Something says to me it could have been the warrant officer there, or whether I was exposed to it in the military, or whether I was exposed to it by my first manager at Westbank, my first job that I ever had. Not quite sure, but it was SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And being the type of person that I am, I decided that why can't it be 3? And so I made a decision decades ago that I didn't need to know what the weaknesses were. So therefore, it's going to be strengths, opportunities, and threats. What I always knew too is that when you're in conversation with people and you were going to cover something where there was a negative component, I don't know whether you've picked this up, Quiz, but the negative part is always discussed and mentioned first. And then you end off with something that's more positive. So basically, out of that SWOT, I shrunk it and then flipped it and then came up with COS, concern, opportunity, and strengths. So it's concerns, opportunity, and strengths. And I went along for a long time using those 3 questions. What are my concerns in this situation? Or what are my opportunities? What are my strengths? But more important of all, I used to use it then on other people. I would even use it with my daughter when she was growing up. So come on, sweetheart, let's sit down now. What are your concerns at school? What are your opportunities? What are your strengths? And then I'd proceed to help them. I used it also with all my clients. Then about 17, 18, 19 maybe years ago, I met a guy that I really respected from the US, living in Toronto. And he said to me, those are bloody good questions. I use them as well. In actual fact, Kevin, I teach others to use it as well. He said, but how would you like, whilst asking your clients that question, how would you also like to establish whether in actual fact they have a bigger future or whether they want a bigger future? And I mean, that was absolutely a no-brainer to me. So I then 18 years ago found the other part to the solution. And that has been a tremendous asset for both myself when using it, when we use it with every prospect that we interview, and we use it internally. And through this guy in Canada, I came to discover that there's a good 500 to 700 men and women worldwide that seriously use those 4 questions that I'm going to be sharing with you. And these are people from all walks of life, okay? It can't be used between you and your prospects in every type of business, but it can be used in most businesses. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to now go through the exercise, and the exercise goes like this. You happen to be a potential prospect of mine, and I'm in a business where I can use these questions, and the questions go like this. So tell me, Chris, if we were sitting here 3 years from today, and we were looking back on those 3 years to today, what needs to happen for you to be happy with your progress? So would you like me to repeat that question to you?
Yes.
Okay, so here it goes. So you're going to be answering this question now. So the question goes like this. So Chris, if we were sitting here 3 years from today, and you had to be looking back on those 3 years, what needs to happen for you to be happy about your progress? Now, when you ask the question, you then remain absolutely quiet. And I'll tell you why. There's a couple of things that happen. Immediately, if you look at that question, you're asking someone to go forward and to then look back. So in other words, they're having to look out 3 years from today, and they're having to look at what's going to make them happy about their progress in the next 3 years. Now, what actually happens with that question is that there's a very, very small percentage of people that can't think beyond tea time in their lives. And so, in other words, they actually don't have any idea of a bigger future. And also, they're not very capable of getting some clarity on it. Now, why in hell would you want to be involved with a client like that? So therefore, from time to time, we get a prospect just not being prepared to answer the question. And we're all happy with that. Because what he was wanting, or what she was wanting, was for us to create that bigger future. Now, let me tell you, there's just too many people out there who are ambitious and are wanting a bigger future and know how to articulate it. We'd rather chase those people, because those are the people that are going to get, okay, tremendous value out of us. Now, in my case, I sell software, But I could have been sitting here now, and you could have been a fleet client wanting to buy 500 vehicles this year. So it's applicable to everything. I've got a friend who is a property developer in New York, and he uses the question with the owner that he's going to be developing for. And then he sits down with the suppliers and he gets them to complete it as well. And then he manages them off the answers that they've given. Or he looks at it and said, no, we've got a tremendous misfit here. This potential client is never going to work with my, contractors, etc., etc. So this is going to be a nightmare. Let me rather walk. So it can be used in all walks of life. Okay. So also what you get is that when you ask a person that question, it's a millisecond that's going through their mind, but what they actually are having to answer is that, oh, do I want a relationship with Kevin? So if they're not ready to be wanting to have a relationship with you, they won't answer the question. Now, with me, I have a strike rate at the moment of, for every 27 people I ask, 26 completed. But the key is that when you ask the question, that you go absolutely quiet. So what I'd like you to do now is look at that question and just jot down a couple of things, a couple of answers, because now you're doing it on yourself.
Right, I'm doing that.
Right. Okay. So the key here is that when you ask the question, that you go immediately quiet. Don't interrupt the person. Don't reinforce the question. If they get the question, the whole best practice is to keep quiet so that the person can have quality time thinking about the question. Now, bearing in mind, if you go back to your freedom through money and you look at your euro unit, you've identified who your target market actually is. And the person that's coming to see you as a prospect, they know what you're offering. So therefore, they're going to answer it in a way that pertains a lot to what your service is all about. So someone once said to me, well, Kev, if I sell motor cars, should I be then saying to the person, happy about cars? The problem is that if you go too narrow with the question, you're not getting the full spectrum, okay, of what the guy is wanting to really answer. Because if you had to put it too specific, that question, in other words, add more words to it, then the guy could be sitting with concerns and opportunities that he's not going to share with you. So what you need to do is you need to keep the question reasonably wide, just like I've asked you. Okay, so now you've got those answers. And then the next step is to proceed and say to that person, okay, so based on the above, and normally what I do is I read them out back to the client. Because in our business, the person's just speaking on Zoom and we type in the actual stuff that he's giving to us. Then we read it back to him. And many of clients have said, oh gosh, when you read it back to me, I go, wow, that was quite interesting what I've actually come up with. So that's good news. Then we proceed and we then say, okay, cool. So based on that answer that you've given us there, and you normally got about 5, 6, 7 bullet points, specifically, what concerns do you have about that bigger future?
I'll answer that just now. But Kevin, I have to congratulate you because you just showed me the clear way what to go and do to get to where I am in 3 years.
Yes.
It's the most fantastic question ever.
Yes. And so concerns are really, you could put dangers there, but really concerns, and this is where the emotive part comes in, because the first question is an intellectual question, but now the next three, starting with concern, that's actually your fears. So what are your concerns, Koos, that need to be eliminated? Okay, then we would say to the client, okay, so what I'd like you to do is to ring the top three. Highlight the top three and just tell me when you're finished.
Okay, I have him here.
Okay. Now, obviously, I just want to remind the audience, in the real world, when my people are doing it with our prospects, okay, they are actually typing the answers while the person's verbally giving it to them. So what we would then do is say, okay, these are fantastic. So let's highlight the top three that concern you. And then they go, right, ring this one, ring that one. That's fantastic. So now what we do is we got the top three, but now let's take the top three and put it in the top priority. So now we got 1, 2, 3 in the top priority. And then we proceed to say to the people, right, what are the opportunities that need to be maximized? And obviously opportunities is excitement. Once again, emotive. And then likewise,
back, Kevin?
So again?
Are we still looking back on 3 years?
Yeah, you're going to the top there and you're looking at all those things and you say, well, based on what you've written up there, what are the opportunities? There, once again, you highlight the top three. And then you prioritize them. When we're doing this with a client, a prospect, it's normally half a game, 40 minutes. Just to give you an idea of how much time we spend on it. Then we go to the strengths and then we say, right, so you know what your bigger vision is. And when you answered that bigger vision in the first question, it was positive. Because how else can it be other than being positive? Because the operative word was happy progress. So in your first question, you weren't going to put negative things, because, I mean, why would you put negative things there if the question says that you'd be happy with your progress? Okay, so you then get to the last question, which is strengths. So what are the strengths that need to be reinforced? And strength at the end of the day is really the left-hand side of the freedom through courage. In other words, capabilities and confidence. So what strengths do you have at the moment? Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned 7. Was that prioritizing?
Yep. Now, once again, you do exactly the same thing with the strengths. You ring 3 of the top ones, and then in priority, what are those top 3? Okay. Right. So just before I continue to proceed with the process, I want to give you some feedback, what's come from my prospect stroke clients and what's come from other practitioners that have embedded these questions big time in their business. So I've over many, many, many years spent time with others who seriously use these questions in all walks of their life. And here are some of the things that I want to share with you. Okay. The first thing is that the clients say that the first and immediate thing that they pick up is that, wow, I've just met a company where it's all about me. Because normally companies want to get into a sales pitch as quickly as possible. Whereas now, for a good 15 to 20 minutes, we go through these questions with the client, and the client realizes, oh my gosh, this is 100% about me and I'm liking it. So that's feedback that I've got over the decades and the other practitioners that use these 4 questions. Secondly, the clients say that while they're busy answering this, they can immediately see that they're getting value. One guy got feedback from a client of his who said, rather than you trying to sell me a product into my bigger future, instead, what you've done, Martin, you've helped me to create my bigger future. And that'll always be more important than someone trying to squeeze their solution into someone's bigger future. So these clients saw that to be more powerful, that you're actually helping people through asking these questions to create their bigger future. Because many have said, no one has ever asked us these questions in a first meeting, number one. And many clients and successful clients have said, Kevin, I've never asked myself these questions before. What also come out of the whole exercise in sharing best practices with these other guys, and they in all different industries, like the one, in actual fact, the one guy, he's a road manager for a big band in the United States. And they asked this question before they go on tour, which is, okay, if we sit him back here in Texas 6 months after the tour, what needs to happen for us to felt happy about our tour? And then they jot down it all. It's about 16 of them that do it. They all individually write out. Okay, so specifically based on how we want to see that tour going, what concerns do we have? So they're getting proactive about what concerns they might have. What opportunities are there? Oh, gosh, we didn't think about that. That's fantastic. We're going to use it at the next gig. And then what are the strengths that we need to reinforce? Because sometimes in business, you forget really what your strengths are in your business. So these questions are helping you to bring that all to the table up front rather than after the concert, like in his case. Okay. So the other feedback we've got from clients as well, and as I said, these other practitioners, is that people feel that we're living in the 21st century where the world is accelerating. So the feeling is that when it comes to complexities, okay, that ceiling seems to be coming down on people. Seems to be quite a complicated world. And so therefore people are feeling that sometimes they're sitting with lots of confusion. They feel isolated, like in our case, what we do, we sell marketing software. So they're confused about what they should be doing, how they should go about it. They're feeling a bit isolated out there. And in some cases, they're feeling powerlessness. So what we're doing, we're coming along and saying, so through asking them these questions and them answering it, we're now going to demonstrate to them how we, with our solutions, are going to take that confusion that they have, that isolation that they have, and we're going to give them direction. We're going to give them confidence, and we're going to give them new capability, because that's especially what they come looking for, is a new capability that's going to excite them. Now, obviously, the viewers are all used to those three questions because we always ask it at the end of each session. And so how does this then all come about? It's because we are showing them, by taking leadership in that conversation, by building up a relationship with them as quick as possible, by showing them it's all about them, it's all about their future. And then what we do is we bring our solution into their answers and we demonstrate creativity. We take this component, we take that concern, we take that strength, and then that leads towards them saying, super, we will go ahead and purchase the software. So therefore we are selling on purpose. We're there to get them to get that feel-good feel as quick as possible about what they're going to be buying from us, and also that they're feeling good about themselves. Okay, and we've just demonstrated that now in these 4 intellectual and emotive questions. If we don't see, when we sell in on purpose, that they're going to get the good feel, we bring the meeting to a conclusion as quick as possible. We don't waste time with people unless we can see that we're selling based on what we've just said. They've got to get that good feel about what they want. And then basically now it starts to talk about the products, the solution, etc., but it's based around their bigger future and their concerns and opportunities and strength. And someone said to me, well, what happens if you can't help them with any of the stuff? Then we think of someone that could perhaps help them and we move them on. Whereas there will be some companies say, no, we got the guy, let's give it a go. Let's give it a punt. Let's see whether we can sell something to them. We're obviously not in that type of business. We're in the business of through freedom, through money. If you can remember on the more sales unit, lifetime value all starts with these questions. So basically, we go back to the freedom through money. And you go to the third one, the sales unit. Okay, and if you remember there, we had a core objective. Make it as easy as possible for them to say yes. These are the 3 questions we use based on their bigger future. And I myself would never go into a business or any type of business unless I could use these questions. There are some types of firms where you can't use it. So in other words, if you're selling, let's say, baby shampoo on the internet and you're selling 20, 30, 40,000 of them a month, well, you're not going to ask everyone that's coming onto your website to answer these questions. But, if you are in B2B and your ticket item is pretty big, then these are wonderful questions. So imagine now, for argument's sake, in your case, you're going to do breakout rooms and you're going to do it for all South African who have written military books. And you were going to have 50 authors in 50 breakout rooms, and you had to get these questions out to them. Say, hi, Kevin. If we were sitting a week after our event, what needs to happen for you to be happy about your progress in your breakout room, speaking to your audience about your book? And then the guy would answer it. What are your concerns you have? What are the opportunities? What are the strengths? And because they are all authors, and because they all are guys that have written books about the South African war, and 99% of them are South Africans, you're going to go and pin those 54 questions up on your board, and you and Rebecca are going to look and say, wow, look at the common denominator. And then you're going to focus big time on the common denominator for them to be all hugely excited about the event that they're going to attend. Also, what's going to happen, because that's your target market, they're going to come up with things that you haven't thought of. And you're going to go, wow, this is now going to help me take that event to the next level. So could you see yourself using these questions on your prospects?
Absolutely. I think I can ask this of anybody who comes on the show for whatever reason. And I always say to people, if you're not using it on yourself, if you're not using it in your company, then it's a bit disrespectful to be asking your clients or prospects the question. I mean, I got a consultancy job
not that I'm a consultant, but this organization asked me to come and help them. And I said, look, I've got my own business, but I will give you X amount of hours every month. And I knew more or less what they were wanting. They wanted to increase their finance penetration on their truck sales. They wanted to increase their truck sales. They're the biggest seller here in Europe. And basically what I did is I just asked 12 of the key people the question separately. And immediately I saw the common denominator. And what I did is from quarter to quarter, I just focused on the common denominator. And then eventually the CEO said, Tommy, you don't come and visit my guys. You do it through that thing called GoToWebinar. How do you keep a handle on everything? And I said, I use the questions just like I used the questions with you. He said, oh, did you really ask me those questions? I said, yeah, we sat in your office and I did it in a more conversation way. Because he was a sort of guy that was, oh, don't ask the questions, Kevin. You've got a reputation. Just come in and do it for us. Now, that's a hard way. It might sound like a compliment, but it's an awful hard way. Whereas in actual fact, I had some of these directors, when they received the questions, immediately they emailed me back and said, wow, I was hesitant to ask these questions. And then I realized they're great questions. And so now I'm going to do it. And I've had quite a few people say that to me. Oh, when I was asked the question, I was a little bit hesitant. And then I had to make a decision. If I'm not honest with myself, how the hell can I go forward? And it wasn't so much because, should I give it to Kevin? It was more a question of, if I'm not honest with myself, where the hell am I going as a director? And so they then proceed to answer it. Because it's that ceiling of complexity. When you got too many concerns, too many opportunities, okay, that's when the complexity is set in. Whereas now, someone has sat you down, and just for the mere fact that you've answered it, you're feeling a lot more confident. You go, wow, look at this, eh? I've got now 1 page a year with 3 of each in priority. And then obviously, I can now speak to someone that's going to guide me accordingly.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. How did you get to it?
Well, as I said to you it's simple things like the SWOT. SWOT. I was always a guy, I know even from my young days, oh, no, it's too complicated. Let me see if I can make it Kevin's. And it was never to expand things. I always intend to shrink it. So SWOT, I just got rid of weaknesses and I had strength, opportunities, and threats. And then I flipped it on its head, threats, opportunity, strength. Threat sounds a little bit like, oh, they're threatening. So make it a concern. It's a little bit softer. So COS. And then, as I said to you, 16, 17, 18 years ago, this guy from Toronto, he said, wouldn't you like a question that sits ahead of all of that, where you can really establish and help someone to create their bigger future? And then he shared that first question with me. And then I knew I had the formula. Because we are, as I said at the outset, we are emotionally first, and then we use reason to make sense of our emotions. So, the first question is an intellectual question. And the next 3, which is fears, excitement, and confidence, well, they're emotive questions. Because ultimately, if you have a look at that, what you're wanting to really do, Chris, is you want to take your strengths with the help of someone and nail those concerns and get them out of your life so that you can focus on the opportunities. That is the essence of what it's all about.
But that's a very important point now, Kevin, which you just said, because many people will only focus on the problems, on the concerns. But I looked at the concerns here and I thought to myself, okay, I'm aware of them, but they're not bothering me. I can deal with it. I know they're there.
Problem is when paralysis sets in. Put it off, put it off, put it off. And then the monster just gets uglier and uglier. And then one day it bites you in the bum.
Well, I know in the police, and I'm sure in the army as well, and you were in both. The officers we hated most were those who couldn't make decisions. Don't care what decision you make, even if it's wrong, but make a decision.
Yes. Yes. It was interesting, there was a guy on the mental well-being of Francis that you sent me over the weekend that was starting to comment there. And the one guy was speaking about post-traumatic stress and that, and was saying, yes, what about when all decisions get made for you in the army, and then you go into civilian life, and then you find you're not good at making decisions, and I suppose then, it's all about taking the action. I think to myself, well, that is a valid point, eh? Now, someone who leaves the army and can take action straight away, like myself, that doesn't mean to say that you can just give the answer to the person and say, no, that's stupid. Nonsense, you can take actions. The fact of the matter is people are telling you they're able to take actions.
I think you had a very good point. Because it's true. I mean, if people tell you all the time what to do, and even at a higher rank, you are being told what to do. Even if you're a company commander, you're being told where to go, what to attack. How you do it is your problem. But when you suddenly leave the army, I mean, I left the police and I was lost. Because, you're absolutely used to the system, and suddenly you're out there into a civilian street, which is to you actually quite alien and full of sharks.
Well, put it this way. James from Special Forces once said that the post-traumatic stress and all those problems and that type of person came with that type of, I don't know exact words he used, came with that type of trait or personality already. And I'm no expert, and I've had mental depression and anxiety, probably 15, 16, 17 years after I left the military. The business was going exceptionally well. So, I was flying, and yet I got it. I wasn't being overworked. There was no stress, but I got it. So based on that, as a layman and having had it, I'd probably say that it's more complicated, but James is probably right. So now you go into the military, and based on that comment that guy made on the posting of Francis over the weekend, man, if you're a certain type of guy where you're not assertive, you're always the last to volunteer, you always stand there at the back when the teacher says, right, who's prepared to do this? Let's say you're that type of person. And maybe even in your home life, you've got an older brother or a dad that's quite, push you down all the time. Now you go to the army and you go to a normal army unit and you serve your 2 years there, and you get a wanker corporal who just last year was a troop. And he niggles you all the time. But he niggles you in a way that he can't get into trouble, but he niggles you. Now, I say to people out there, just say to that youngster, get a life. Well, this sergeant here is telling them they don't know a fuck what they're talking about. It doesn't work like that. Just get a life. So they have that 2 years built on top of already what they've been exposed to in life and the personality that they happen to be. So I say to myself, yes, army can have a negative impact on some people. But the macho people out there will never buy into what I'm saying. And I say to the macho people out there, because this is damage you can cause to other fellow human beings. I say to those people that are so-called macho out there, what have you really done in life to be talking like that? Because this is a military channel, so we might as well keep it military talk. What unit were you in? And you're quite a windgat, eh? And what have you really done other than shunt the rover around and then take them up to Oshivela and talk shit in their holes, in their head when you're up there? But you yourself, you've never gone further than Oshivela in your whole army career. Because then you go back to your unit and then you come up there again next year. And that road that goes further up. And the road that goes even further up there to the cup lane. And then the road goes over. And then the roads disappear. And then you hit the bush and you go further. Have you been up there? No. So therefore, shut the fuck up if someone else is having a problem.
But it's fascinating. But it's fascinating to me, Kevin, that the Special Forces guys and 32 Battalion, which we dealt with now extensively on this channel, probably the two most revered units, they never say such things.
No. I'll be honest with you. We had a Domini. Not a psychologist, but we had a Domini always there at Buffalo. We had very understanding doctors. And I can tell you now, as soon as you put up your hand, the help was immediately there. Were they checking you out and becoming proactive to pull you in to help you? That I wouldn't know because, I didn't need any help. And no one really came to me. But what I will tell you is that the longer you were in the unit and you were in going to the operational area, then just naturally we were always checking. Always checking. Some guys got drunk for dread. And let me tell you, on a more lighter side, that was fantastic comedy because it could go on for 20, 30 minutes. But in terms, we're talking about relationships today, freedom through relationship. We would be checking that out and saying, oh, is that a concern? No, it's fine. He's got the strengths. That's just drunk for dread. And then we watch him the next day, wake up with a babalas, be back up, talking, shouting, being the normal person he is. And then we go, well, in our layman thinking, well, there's no reason for concern there. And then it'll be onwards and upwards. So, to get back to this question, for me, Kevin Johnson, and my team in my business, we have this mindset for one simple reason, okay? We are continuously wanting to expand the number of successful and ambitious individuals who share and encourage our ambition. So we want ambitious clients so that our ambition can continue to grow. And to be honest with you, in my personal life, in a more informal way, I ask these questions because there's no ways I'm going to be involved with another person my age who doesn't see that they have a bigger future have become very nostalgic. In other words, they're always talking about the past. They don't see any bigger future. These questions quickly get me to realize that I can't spend too much time with that individual. Everyone needs to be in sync. Everyone needs to be in harmony. And that's why I always say on these PDFs down at the bottom, now go and make your future bigger than your past. So there we go. That's freedom through relationships. So based on the questions today, Koos, did you get some direction and clarity?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Right. And then do you feel a bit more confident about your bigger future?
Absolutely. Quite.
Right. And then just for the mere fact that we've shared the questions with you today, have you found some new capability today?
Yes, I'm confident. I'm grateful.
Fantastic. Well, as normal, I say to the viewers, same thing. If you got clarity today, you got confidence, and you got some new capability of how you could use these questions, both in your personal and private life, then we're not charging any money for these videos and the PDFs below. So what we would appreciate, if you've got something and you got value, if you could maybe give something to my unit's Veterans Association. So there we go, Koos. What we're going to be doing. Sorry, you can go on.
No, carry on.
Okay, so next week is mid-quarter. Okay, so what that actually means is that we're going to go to the building that we've created. You're going to go to your HQ, and Lesh, Brigadier Lesh, the Entrepreneurial Brigadier, is coming in next week. And Petrolinal, the RSM, he's coming to visit you tomorrow. Next week, sorry, Monday, and he's going to be doing the inspection. Okay. And just to reinforce things, what he's going to be focusing on. He's going to be asking you, let me see what goals you came up with at the beginning of this month, how you're progressing with those results, which is the R. How did you address the obstacles? And more important of all, he's going to want to do an audit on your who's. So I'm giving you sort of forewarning to say, get your ducks in a row for the grow that you set at the beginning of this quarter. I can also give you a tip, knowing Petrolinal. He's not going to ask you for your grow on health because he's just going to look at you and make some comment. He's not going to be asking you for the second one, purpose. He's not going to be asking you about time, courage. He's not going to be asking you about this one. He's going to be asking you about the freedom through money. He's going to be checking what you're up to in your Euro unit, your leads unit, your sales unit, and your more sales unit. And I know that guy like the back of my hand. He's going to be saying to you, show me the numbers. Show me the data. And quite frankly, if you can't show him the data and the numbers, he's going to yoke you. You know that cap he wears? He can throw it on the floor. I've seen him do it. He'll throw it on the floor, and that voice of his will start to whatever you call it, not the volume, the pitch will start to go up, and your staff on the first floor, second floor, and third floor, and fourth floor, they're going to run for the toilets when they hear that voice. And it's going to be all your fault. So get those numbers. Okay, sort it out. And be clear on how you're going to answer him. And you know what he does, of course? What's not working, what's working with these numbers. Got to start bringing these 8 freedoms together now. He's going to tell you in no uncertain terms that you need to start understanding this stuff now. And you know how he punishes people? He just doesn't come back. And then you've lost that wonderful gift of someone who's there to help you. What are those words? Thereby courage, the X and the Y axis down in the corner. When you're not being courageous and you're not committing, let's just recap on the words. NAFI. Do you remember what that stands for? Do you remember, Koos, what it stands for?
Yes.
Say
Not
it.
ambitious or something like that.
Say it so that your mind can register it. No ambition.
And focal interest.
Focal interest, right. C-stof-diff, you get what that means? You're becoming like an oxygen thief. Ballasbakking. Slapgat. He doesn't tolerate any of that. And he detests, okay, petty excuses. So in the bigger scheme of things, for many people, he's regarded as a dickhead. But for the clever ones, they say, oh my God, this is the guy that helps me to get muscle memory with all this stuff. It makes me propel myself forward. And on a more lighter note, I say this to people, and I've got caught in these traps as well. Fortunately, I get back on the horse quick enough. You know, we're quick to point fingers. Oh, what that guy said doesn't work. I'm not sure this works, but you haven't given it a proper chance in life. And I think what happens is it's easier to go and say, I'll just go and listen to one more video or read one more book on it. It's a cop-out. Because we know from our days in the police, the Milieuscope and the army, in my case, the infantry school as well, that, you know, the guy used to like show things up on the board and go, oh, I've got to take this in, I've got to take this in. Yeah, I think I'm now the weight, the length, the width, the size. Oh, God, now here's more data coming on the board. Okay. And then he bends down and he brings up the LMG or the PKM or whatever it is. Now he starts to show you the stuff that he showed on the board. Now you start to take more in. But very quickly get you out of the tent and the hut. And now you've got to start playing with this thing and dismantle it. And then you realize how little you actually know about the weapon. If you had just sat in that classroom and he didn't take you outside, your brain would have played ticks with you and said, oh yeah, I know a lot about this weapon already. But until you had to take action, only then did you realize without the action, you're actually not that competent with the weapon. It's the same in the entrepreneurial world. You've got to get to the action part as quick as possible. So I'm a little bit digressing, but that just sums up then, Koos, what it's all about when we get to mid-quarter next week. And then the week thereafter, we'll go to freedom through technology. The week thereafter, we'll spend on the 8th one, which is grow, which you're all familiar with already. And then we will see you all again first week of the new quarter, and then obviously mid-quarter.
So the answer to all of this is to play games.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you actually mentioned that. In my business, it's all about what's the return on your games. And obviously, the rules are the same for everyone. You can choose to come up with 45 minutes. In my case, I like 40 minutes, rest 10, 40. It's the quantity and the quality of the games. You look in the game of football, you go play a bit of Sunday football with your mates in the park, and then compare that to a game that Ronaldo plays and the preparation that he puts into it to play the game. It's the same in the business world. It's binary. In the business world, when it comes to ambitious entrepreneurial people, they like things to be binary. I'm either ambitious, giving it a full go, or I'm being a coward about it. But to try and give yourself these ratings in between, it's a cop-out. It's better to go binary. It's like I said in previous videos, you can work in a corporate world. You can actually have a wonderful life running at about 85% if you're a competent person. But if you want to be an ambitious entrepreneurial person, it's either 100% or not. And by playing the games, it means that you get plenty time to rest, plenty time to be with your family and your friends. Because if you're playing solid games, there's only so many you can do in a day. I can't go past 4 games. I can tell you now, I can't go. I can feel that my quality starts to drop. But hey, that's good news, because 4 games is like, 5.5 hours? So there we go, Chris.
Right. It seems to me that I've got work to do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You got the 4 questions, but you've had grow now for a while. And what you'll notice is that this 4 questions don't stand in isolation. It plays an integral part of your grow. And your grows obviously play an integral part of all your freedoms, and plays a big role when it comes to your freedom through money. 25 years. By just having a 25-year ambition, you can go big. By just having 25 years, it starts to separate you from most other people that are just living from day to day. And 25 years gives you 100 quarters. 1 quarter is just 1%. Just keep making your future bigger than your past.
Well, as you've heard, man, I've got a lot of things to go and do before next week. And I think it's important, because then we can see if the system actually works or not. And I think it's working. And I will tell everybody once again here, if you're only watching this one, please do yourself a favor, go and look at the other ones as well. And they will all come together at some stage. And hopefully it will work for you. But in fact, it's not hopefully, it will work for you if you do it properly. So Kevin, thank you once again. I appreciate your time. And until we meet again, to all of you, God bless.